Speaking of rubbing one out, I'm sure Panther fans were doing that last night. Wow. Not the best transition, but I will do my best. But trying to get this back on the rails. I love it. All right, so we got to talk about it because it's the Stanley Cup. It's the finals. It ended last night in very dominant fashion for the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers did defeat the Edmonton Oilers 5-1 last night to take the Stanley Cup final by 4-2, and the Florida Panthers, after Edmonton and probably tied the series with a huge comeback in Game 4, just basically put their foot on the throats of Edmonton, the players, the city, the team, all in one. And there's no man who's happier right now than Mr. Cavassier Chase, or a Chase GPT, because at this network, there's no bigger Florida fan, also anti-Edmonton, also a Sam Bennett fan, and of course we all know he came home with the Conn Smythe. So Chase, this is just your opportunity to talk your talk and hype up the now back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, they're a really good team. They're built just on toughness. Like, all four lines are just a bunch of gritty sandpaper type of players. They play tough. They're very physical, and it's definitely like the type of identity that you'd love to see the Red Wings have. I mean, I think they play such a tough physical brand of hockey. That's like exactly what I love to watch, because not only is it the toughness and this, and the physicality, but they also have a lot of skill and speed in their game too. So I mean, really fun. I had a feeling Florida was going to go back to back. Neil was pumping up his Maple Leafs all postseason, and I kept telling him, like, they're not getting by Florida. And we even made a bet because he was trying to pump up his boy Connor McDavid again. And the whole NHL, like that, I can't stand Edmonton just because of the way that, like, the NHL just tries to gift wrap everything to them. They got like 3 number 1 picks in a row right after they lost the Stanley Cup final to the Hurricanes, and they still can't get the job done. They suck. They could barely make the playoffs. Couldn't get out of the first round. They had to gift wrap them easy matchups with the Kings, and then get fed the scraps of a second round dogfight between other teams in the other side of the bracket. I mean, I can't stand them. I love seeing them lose, and just fuck them. Yeah, I mean, so
that's why.
Yeah, so it's fun. I love seeing the misery, and like, there's very few teams I hate, like, in sports, as much as I hate the Edmonton Oilers. And so yeah, very cool to see Sam Bennett won the Conn Smythe. Like, he's a free agent. I'd like to see, if we poached anybody from Florida, I'd like to see Aaron Ekblad the most. But I know we've talked about that a little bit off air, but we'll see what happens. And very excited. I have I have a coffee from Neil that he owes me, and I told him yesterday I'd cashing that in for a chocolate chip. And yes, I want that warmed up, Neil.
Maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way. I don't think Florida is that talented, but these dudes are ball busters.
Yeah.
I mean, they just get in you and mess you up, muck up games. They can do whatever they want to do, and then they can just pick it up, kill it. They're killers, man.
They are just what's the snake that just, like, kills you by suffocating you, by squeezing you?
Oh, constrictors.
Boa constrictor.
Yes.
That's what the Florida Panthers are.
Pythons do that. It's a type of snake. But yeah,
I
they're
mean,
constrictors.
Before I hand it over to Justin, because I know he let me know before the segment that he was going to have a take that might make me a little bit mad. It's just, think about this. Think about just in the middle of the season for the Florida Panthers. If you would have told me that Sam Bennett would have 15 goals in the playoffs, and that they would add Brad Marchand, and he would probably play the best playoffs of his career and have 6 Stanley Cup goals, not a point per game, but a goal per game, plus Verhaeghe, plus Tkachuk, plus Barkov, plus Reinhart, all basically being point per game in the playoffs, along with Bobrovsky being his usual stout self, Aaron Ekblad being an absolute killer, Seth Jones getting out of Blackhawk hell and going to Panther heaven and thriving. I would have thought this team might go 16-0 in the playoffs. Obviously, that's unreasonable. That's not going to happen. But the Florida Panthers and Spencer...
Yeah, but Flannel, you missed one thing.
What's up?
This is the first 6-game sweep in NHL history.
Might as well be. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even close. It was a 6-game series that felt like...
Sweep?
I mean, Edmonton did get 2, and they were really competitive in the first couple of games and had that comeback, but it really wasn't a close series. Once the Panthers felt real danger, they just turned it up to a level that Edmonton just could not match. So, but Justin, you have some thoughts on the series, probably pro Florida and also a little anti-Edmonton. Take it away, young sir.
Edmonton will not be able to win a Stanley Cup as currently constructed. They are not built in the right way to help McDavid get to where he wants to go. They keep bringing in these offensive defensemen like Wallman, and they obviously have developed Bouchard into one of the best offensive defensemen in the NHL. But it's just not sustainable. Their goaltending sucks. Their defense suck at playing defense, which, I don't know, seems important. It's just the name of the position.
Just a little bit.
And that I think that they need to really look into trading away Bouchard as an RFA this offseason, because that is a premier asset that could land them a defenseman and a goalie that could actually help them win a Stanley Cup. And if they don't do it this year, you have to start thinking, is it even sustainable to win a cup when you're paying McDavid $16 million plus and Draisaitl $14 million plus? Like, it's just, I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable. If they go into this offseason and they just like, oh, let's run it back, same style of players, almost exact same guys, they're not going to get it done. Even with Florida losing they're going to lose either Ekblad or Bennett. So they might not be the same as they are this year, but still there's going to be another team that is just as deep, that plays that way, that's going to cause them trouble next year, and they really need to consider making some fundamental changes to that team, that identity, because if they keep playing like this, they're not going to get it done. Even though I know McDavid was hurt, and that was a big thing in the series, but the Panthers beat him up. He was hurt because they were playing the Panthers, and everyone's playing hurt. You saw, if you looked at Matthew Tkachuk in his when he's holding the cup in the locker room, he can barely stand. He's limping around. I think he had a hernia or something that he has to get in the offseason. Everyone's playing hurt. It's not an excuse, and the Oilers got to take a strong look in the mirror, and they got to think, is this really a team that's going to win the Stanley Cup? I don't think so. I think they got to make some changes.
I think they're already thinking about that. I mean, this is the first time I can remember where a team loses in a final, and they're talking about rebuilding. They're not talking about retooling. They're talking about rebuilding a team that just went to the Stanley Cup Finals.
You know, Justin, I have absolutely no problem with what you're saying. As somebody who was rooting hard for Edmonton, it was frustrating watching them just get their shit kicked in. Even in games that Edmonton won, there were moments, especially in a Game 4, where Florida just looked like they were going to blow them away and then eventually kind of let their foot off the gas, and Edmonton made that great comeback. But Games 5 and 6 weren't even close. It didn't even look like the gap between Edmonton and Florida, especially when it comes to a physical play, was just, it was Lake Michigan. It was. And that's what was so frustrating. And I have actually one more question for the hockey elite in this room. Anybody can take it. I'll actually start with you, Justin, because you were mentioning the defensive deficiencies for the Oilers and how Bouchard, although he's a great offensive player, really lacks defensively. We all know what Wallman can't do. How much of these last two Cup finals does McDavid get any blame whatsoever? Or does he get a pass?
I think he gets a pass. I think that if you want to turn to the fact that he didn't score enough in this final, is fine. But that's not all hockey is. I think that up to the point he got injured, he was having a great finals, and was having great playoffs. Last year, I mean, he won the Conn Smythe on the losing team. I don't think you can take blame on that either. I just think that hockey is a game where it's so important how deep you are, how your roster is built, and it's a game of matchups. And Florida is the Oilers' worst nightmare, and they are a nightmare matchup on paper. They can't compete with the physicality. They don't play clean enough. They don't keep the puck safe. They turn the puck over too much. So I don't think that you can blame McDavid. I think what you can blame is their management for not building this team correctly around Connor McDavid, because there's one thing they don't understand is your offense is good enough. You have Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You don't need more offense. You need defense. And the fact that they can't figure that out is honestly malpractice.
Well said, Justin. Chase, does McDavid get any blame for the last couple of years, falling just a little bit short?
I mean, I don't see how you could try to put blame on him. It's not like his performance lacked any. He played as well as he could, and there's things outside of his control that just don't go their way. You can't play every shift and be on the ice for all 60 minutes and overtime. He played a lot, so I think it's tough. I think he's playing the role of the tragic hero from just classic
100%.
literature. He can't get it done. He gets so close, especially in these last couple of years. So, we'll see if one day he can get it done. While he's wearing Edmonton orange, I'm never going to root for him. So hopefully next year he gets out of that hellhole and leaves in free agency, and they're just stuck, just licking their wounds.
Yeah, and for the record, I wouldn't mind that at all. I have no attachment to Edmonton. I just want Connor McDavid to get a cup. And for the record, I think the fact that he got a Conn Smythe last year is a big deal. One of only 3 players in NHL history to have a 40-point postseason. You can't take that away from him. The only thing that I think you can be a little bit critical of Connor McDavid for is that in both of the games, Game 7 of last year and Game 6 of this year, I thought he was a little passive, particularly last year where they only lost 2-1 and he only put up 2 shots. And this year in Game 6, although it wasn't always his fault, he was a -4 and put up 2 shots. But also in the last 2 Stanley Cup Finals combined, he has 18 points in 13 games and several great performances. It's just it's unfortunate. I would agree with both of you that it's more about what's around him and what Florida does to Edmonton than it is to a Connor McDavid, because I think he's quickly becoming the greatest American team sport athlete to not win a championship. I still would put Barry Bonds ahead of him for now, but the fact that Connor McDavid actually has his sports version of a finals MVP, which is the Conn Smythe, that's pretty telling of how Connor McDavid is thought, because he deserved the Conn Smythe last year. Nobody on Florida really separated themselves. And this year, of course, Connor McDavid's postseason wasn't quite as good. And, of course, Sam Bennett did something historic. It's just, I do feel for Connor McDavid big time.
And go ahead, Justin.
One more thing. And if you really watch, a lot of Florida's goals, you'll realize how bad the defense is for the Oilers, how many turnovers that Bouchard or Wallman had that led to direct high-quality scoring chances. And when you look at the other side and you look at Florida, there's just not that that just doesn't happen. Florida is so good with the puck. They're so good at choking you out. And when they do get a chance to have the puck and get the puck out of the zone, they do, and they get it out every time. That's what a really good team does, and that's why Florida won this championship.
Absolutely. That first turnover that really set the tone, that Bouchard turnover that led to a Reinhart easy goal, was just egregious. And from that moment, it's all right, it's over. Florida's going to ambush them, and that's exactly what they did.
You guys already know, after what you saw last night and the aspirations that we have for the Detroit Red Wings, how are you feeling about them? Because we're going to get to the Woodward Pistons segment. We're going to talk about how we're feeling about the Pistons as this playoffs, this NBA playoffs and finals has played out. Because they're pretty close to some of these teams that we've seen, including the Pacers now, playing for a title. But I got to ask you guys, your perspective and your outlook for the Red Wings after seeing this finals.
I'll tell you what, they are an entire planet away from Florida.
Damn.
In terms of the way that they play, and in terms of top-end talent, they're an entire planet away from Edmonton. Hopefully, and we're going to talk about this more on Woodward Wings, and hopefully throughout the offseason on this show, maybe they can poach one of those Florida players, bring Aaron Ekblad home. I want that more now than ever. You got 2 cups, man. You got 2 cups. You don't need to prove anything else.
Go back and look at it. I know you guys talked about that on Woodward Wings as well.
And I know Chase would come in here really excited if the Red Wings got a Sam Bennett, which the more I watched him this postseason, the more overpaying from him doesn't seem so bad. I was against it before. Now I'm like, maybe you got to do it. I don't know. Man, it's the Red Wings. They're not close.
There's pretty strong rumors that Bennett's going to go back to Florida.
That's where he's. And I said this on Woodward Wings, and it might have even been this show. Either way, is that Sam Bennett, if he goes back to Florida and keeps playing the role that he is now, he could end up being the greatest role player in NHL history. Not one of, the greatest. If they win a couple more cups, I mean, he has a Conn Smythe for crying out loud.
And T. Foss, you called this. You called the Lions when it was time to get going. You said it 2-3 years ago, about 4 years ago. The Lions are serious. They're ready. Take them serious. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the division. and everybody thought you were wilding. I thought you were trolling on the show. We were hosting and filling in for the heavies.
I don't troll.
And
deliberately.
And you were like, no, bro, I'm really serious. They're doing things differently. I've seen this organization up close personal. You called it with the Pistons. You called it with the Tigers. Where are you at with these Red Wings? I've seen these guys because I'm telling you, they've been up and down with the team as it relates to letting their passion show. The Red Wings have been seemingly right there the last 2 years. And there's a lot of people in the city who are starting to get a little antsy. You got to think there's a lot of people who know
be antsy.
Championship hockey as is
you know, here's the way I look at the Red Wings. Steve Yzerman has no urgency. He has no pressure. He has no deadline. Because he's Steve Yzerman. I can do whatever I want on my timeline. I think he can do more. I think he should get involved in free agent. He needs to make this team tougher. And if you want to emulate what we saw the last couple weeks in the Stanley Cup Finals, toughness means more in the playoffs than during the regular season. The Wings, not only are they not physically tough, man, they fall apart. You know, something bad happens, and they're done for a couple weeks. So now you need to get that physical and mental toughness. And we were talking about rats. Maybe it's time to bring some rats in here.
Hey.
But I don't have confidence in them from this standpoint. Yes, they could make the playoffs next year. So what? And then you get your ass kicked in the first round?
Probably at this point. Probably. I can't disagree with anything T-Foss is saying. This is a big off season for him. It's a big off season. You can't continue to stay stagnant, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, you can pretty much set your watch to, at least the past 3 years, a regression that completely tanks their season. Or not even a regression, just like a terrible, terrible stretch of play around the trade deadline that has tanked their last 3 seasons. So I can't disagree with anything
Maybe
T-Foss
make a move
says.
at the trade dedeadline. I don't know.
Maybe
if we don't want to fall apart in the second half.
Hopefully,
no, we're not
players
gonna do
that aren't a bunch of dinosaurs.
If you don't have
Not gonna do
pressure
that.
on you, you don't have the urgency to do that.
I understand.
Well, pressure comes from a couple ways, and the one way it's not coming is from above, and that's the only person he's actually going to listen to. So I don't know what you want us to do, Terry.
You can bitch about it. You know what he's gonna say? Shut up.
Exactly.
So what?
We're gonna do our part though, and hopefully the fact that the Red Wings actually didn't have that linear point progression gives them urgency to have a more effective off season. But go ahead, Chase.
I mean, the fact that like some people are just now realizing how far away this team really is from not only like getting in the playoffs, but like competing and being competitive for a chance to make a run in the playoffs. Like, there's no way in hell Steve Yzerman is just now realizing this as well. And so like the lack of like urgency and pressure, I think, is just him not forcing any hands. And there isn't like a one trick, like you need to tear down the drywall and just put in a whole new wall. Like, you can't just patch up all these holes and issues. So that's what's going on. And like there's not like just one fix. It's going to be this tough, arduous process, and we're already been in it for 6 years almost, and it sucks. But it's going to be a little bit longer, and it's going to continue to suck. But eventually, like, he's going to flip this house.
Gromit says playoffs or fire Stevie. Is that where some of these fans are at?
That's and you know what? I'm not gonna jump down people's throat for that. If you feel that way, fine. If you feel that way, fine.
Weezy D313 Wings fans have been waiting for the playoff experience part where we get clapped in the first round. Everybody's so antsy to get to the playoff experience rolling.
I still would like to see it though.
You gotta see it at the very least, but it's crazy because I'm telling you, the belief that I heard T-Fall speak about with the other 3 teams, you've covered all these teams for a long time. You've seen the perspectives, you've seen the shifts. For him to be like, yeah, they'll make the playoffs, but yeah. Like all the other 3 teams, it was about the belief in the foundation they were building. And that was even with the Pistons coming off of historical crap, bro. So that's what, to me, as a fan who much more casual today than I used to be back in the day, I still want to see this team get there. But I do. Part of me wonders, is that even enough? I feel like you have to. With 6 years, with the waiting, with fans at least wanting some type of payoff, I feel like you at least got to get there.
Well, this is, and I think we're all in agreement on this, and Chase really kind of rode that home, is that when Like, would anybody be shocked if the Lions win the Super Bowl this year? Would anybody be shocked if the Tigers win the World Series this year?
No.
Would anybody be shocked if the Pistons make one move and it makes them Eastern Conference contenders at least?
Not at all.
With the Red Wings, there's no pathway to them being like contenders within the next couple of years. Right. So, and hockey's a different sport.
There is in the next couple of years. You got to be
Okay, all right.
Talk to me, Justin.
You- like I understand if you want to say that next year they're not going to be ready, because there's a good chance they're not, and they should be just trying to make the playoffs next year. But the year after, if you already have a playoff team infrastructure and your team is as young as the Red Wings will be, there should be a move that you can make in not this offseason, but the next offseason that should be able to elevate you. If you truly can get over the hump and get into the playoffs this year, then you are in a position where in 2 years you can make that move that will put you over the top. But you have to get there first. You
That's
have
fair.
to make those moves to get to that point. And that's what we need this offseason from Steve Yzerman, is to bring people in to reinforce this roster to a point where they can make the playoffs and not have these slumps towards the end of the season like they have the last 3 years.
Yeah, but
Everybody
you know
right
what?
there.
You're right, but do you still hear the same bullshit from Steve Yzerman? I'm going to do it the right way. I'm not going to cut corners. We're just going to do this methodically.
Look, you got the Yzerman supporters in the chat. Kiazi. Okay, well, if we fire Stevie, I want some people, those same people, to say or tell me who should we pick up instead of Stevie.
Exactly.
Hoof-hearted says this. Anyone that says playoffs are bust for Stevie simply doesn't know hockey and is putting other sports expectations and timelines on a hockey team, which isn't how it works in the NHL at all. Gromit, it's deeper than Stevie, but he's a sacrifice. Playoffs for bust. So he doesn't necessarily believe that it is a Stevie issue, but he does believe that ultimately Stevie might pay the piper. But you got some people in here who are supportive of the timeline, of the work, and of Stevie Y.
I would ask this person this question. When's the last time the Wings made the playoffs? So it is playoff or bust.
Long time. Go ahead, Chase.
I say
2014.
I agree with what Justin was talking about as far as like being competitive in this next season. I think this whole focus on the next season should be shoring up the defense, controlling the things you can control, and not creating mistakes in your own end and giving up easy opportunities to teams that put yourself in holes early in games or late that let teams come back. And then once you have a bit more of a foundation built on defense, then in the 2026 free agency class, when instead of lighting money on fire and overpaying Mitch Marner this offseason, I think making some smart sandpaper type moves this year, just finding some gritty guys. Like I said, I would be cool with Aaron Ekblad, and then maybe a bottom six forward. I know we have quite a few of those, but a middle six forward maybe instead, just to chore up that second and third line. Someone who's a little bit more reliable than Comfer and Kopp have been, at least health wise, over the last couple of seasons. And then looking at the stars, more or less to become available in 2026, that's where you should be targeting, trying to find somebody who would have been like McKinnon, McDavid. Off the top of my head, those are two of the bigger names.
McDavid's available. McCarr's available.
Yeah.
But there are a plethora of superstars that are
A lot of
available
people are going to be
in the
coming off the books in
2027
2026,
offseason.
and that's where you should be honestly looking to add some serious talent to this team. If you're not able to draft somebody or make a trade for somebody, you can possibly sign somebody to a big contract in 2026.
I do think there has to be a move for a top six forward, though. There is no reason that you should be going into this next season with someone like Soderblom playing on your first line with Larkin and Raymond. You need someone to fill that role. Whether it doesn't even have to be a top-of-the-line guy, but you need someone who can go in there and can produce 60 to 80 points on that first line. And then you're right, Chase. You need a D and possibly a goalie.
Yeah.
You are probably 4 to 5 players away from being
Well, that's why I say
close to
middle
contending.
six. Because wouldn't you expect? I don't think people are going to expect Casper to take that bump up to the first line, and then you just have somebody to supplement where he was in the middle, more or less in the second and third line. I think that kind of gets you close to where you want to be, more or less. Obviously, if you can get another top six forward, that'd be better. But I don't think it's something you have to, like I said, go overpay for or make.
I don't think you have to overpay for it. I think there's plenty of budget options that are out there that are for good prices for low contracts. There's the Penguins who have Raquel and Rust, two guys who are almost a point per game who are going to cost you nothing to get. So I think that there's a lot of options out there to bring in a top line forward. It's going to be doing it in the Steve Yzerman way, which is going to be finding a way that is low risk, low term, and probably an older veteran that some team's trying to get rid of, like a Russ or Raquel.
It's going to be interesting, and I think we can all agree that to whatever plan, Chase mentioned Aaron Ekblad. We've all been high on Aaron Ekblad. Aaron Ekblad alone would do wonders. Not enough. I'd still like more, but I think Aaron Ekblad alone could maybe propel this team into the playoffs and greatly help the PK. But a team that